Michigan. Thank you. Yes, 3,000 people. And I was actually, I was a happy kid. I'm the one in the middle. And did you guys know that 40% of your happiness is preset by your DNA? The good news is that means you can control 60% of it. But from a very, very early age, I always had anxiety. I was a kid that worried about everything. And I had two parents, still do. They're still together, which is awesome, 48 years later. My mom grew up on a cattle farm, and my dad grew up in a family of entrepreneurs, bakers on the East Coast, and he's manly enough to have a perm and a one-piece jumpsuit there. Yes, I remember my mother actually putting those rollers in his hair when he was in medical school. But they were kind of like the tough love parents, right? And this was also the era before there was Prozac. But nobody really understood that there was something really going on with me. Maybe they should have, since I used to drink like a case of Malanta a week to settle my nervous stomach. Well, it only got worse as I got older. And when I got into college and I went east for college and we drove the Wagoneer the whole way from Michigan to New Hampshire, my parents were so upset with me because I cried the entire way, terrified of what was about to happen, going so far away. And I'm the one that picked it. But it didn't matter. I was scared. I was full of fear. And I remember somewhere between Syracuse and Rochester, my father finally turns over, pulls the car over, turns around and says, "For crying out loud, we're not taking you to jail. Will you shut up? It's going to be fine." Well, it didn't end there. Didn't end there at all. So I go through college and I end up following a boyfriend to Washington, D.C. because I really didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. And I love the story that Trisha and Eric were talking about their daughter. I was not like their daughter. I did not know what I wanted. In fact, I felt gripped by fear about making the wrong choice. And everybody around me was applying to graduate schools. And so I decided, okay, I'll apply to graduate schools. And so I did. I threw in applications at all kinds of law schools. And one after another, rejected, 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 rejected. One lonely law school. Vermont Law School. Oh, and there are people from Vermont here, all right. So I said life is about moments. And this was a pivotal one. And this was a moment where we're going to talk about the language of the mind and the language of the soul. And this was a moment, the first time ever, where the language of the soul took control of the situation. So what happened? So I show up at Vermont Law School, and I move into my apartment that I had rented over the phone. And I start unpacking the U-Haul, including my cat Ed, and I move in, and something doesn't feel right. I feel panicky. I feel like I don't belong there. I feel like I need to do something. It always comes from kind of here, right? But my head was like, okay, you signed up, you're here, let's test it out, it'll be fine, you'll get through it, you always do, it always works out in the end, this is just a new situation, stick with it, you don't have a choice. So I show up the next day, and it just gets worse and worse and worse. It's like now my stomach's starting to yell at me. Mel, you gotta go, you gotta go, you gotta get out of here, I'm telling you, this is not the right thing for you, I'm telling you, I'm telling you, I'm telling you. So I show up the next morning. Don't I just look so thrilled to be there? This is my ID. I walk into registration, I register, I take my ID, they hand it to me, I turn around, I pack up the apartment. This was 1991. No cell phones, no way to reach mom and dad, who would have killed me anyway. And I walk back into the registrar's office after I'm finished packing, and I withdraw. And I tell them, no, I'm not coming back. I'm leaving forever. And they say, well, sorry, you're gonna lose the refund, or not the refund, the deposit, which had taken me all year to save for. And I said, and then my head's like, oh, wait a minute, bad idea. And and my soul's like, go, 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 go. So I'm like, keep it, I'm out. And so I leave, I get in the U-Haul, and now what am I gonna do? I'm in Vermont in a U-Haul with a cat. So I think, okay, I don't know why, but Boston is calling me, so I'll drive to Boston. And so I drove to Boston. And the entire drive, as Ed is sitting there on the seat next to me and the U-Haul is shaking, I'm thinking to myself, this is the biggest mistake of my life. What am I doing? Oh my gosh, turn around, turn around. And my soul kept saying, just go, just go, just go, just go. I didn't even know anybody in Boston. So I get to Boston and it dawns on me, I had applied to Boston College Law School and they had not let me in. Why don't I go see if I can change their mind? Right? Interesting. Do you have the will to change? I pull in, I walk in, it's now about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I walk into the dean's office, freaking out inside. This is not the part of the story where I suddenly become a good public speaker. This is the part of the story where I am listening to my soul tell me, do it. So I walk in, I introduce myself, the receptionist kind of looks at me like, well, the Dean of Admission's not going to see you, but you're welcome to wait. And I said, okay, I'll wait. I sit down. An hour passes. 2 hours pass. 3 hours pass. 4 hours pass. It's now 5:15. I'm not getting it. I mean, this is so clear. But now I'm still being told by my soul, stay, stay, stay. My mind's like, get out of here, get out of here, get out of here. You don't even know what you're going to say. This is the dumbest thing. The receptionist says, he'll see you now. And now I'm thinking, well, what the hell am I going to say to him? So I stand up, and by this point, my head's going, I don't even know if I want to be a lawyer. I don't know if I want to live in Boston. I've totally screwed up my life. What's happening? I walk in. He says, I understand you've been here a long time waiting. And I said, yes. I said, my name is Melanie Schneeberger. I started at Vermont Law School today, decided I didn't want to be here and I needed to be here. So I drove down to tell you that you should really let me in. And he kind of chuckled, and he said, really? And I said, yeah, if you turn around, that's my U-Haul. And he turned around, and there, by the grace of God, was my U-Haul parked right outside his window with the cat, like on the dashboard. Let her in! Let her in! I gotta go to the bathroom! And he turned around, and I kind of did one of these, and I said, look, if I'm willing to come here and argue my case, I'm gonna make a pretty damn good lawyer. Yes, I know. That one came from here, not from up here. And he said, you're in. Yes. So, that, I didn't realize it at the time, but that was the beginning of something that I now call the 5-second rule. And it was the beginning of learning to listen to your soul when it's speaking to you, versus listening to your head. And I want to get into this. And for the rest of the time, life was pretty good till about 2004. This is my husband, Chris, and we have 3 kids, but this is at a point when we only had our 2 daughters. And I was building a brand new business as a life coach, and my husband was working in a firm. He made the money, you know what I mean? It was like my money was the money that went to the kids, his money paid the bills. And one day he walked in with a box. And I said, hey, honey, what's in the box? And he said, I got fired. And I said, no problem. No problem. You'll just call a recruiter, you'll call the competitor, you'll send out some resumes, you'll get another job. And he said, you know, I don't think so. And I said, what do you mean you don't think so? And he said, I hate my job. I hate my life. I hate working for a company that I don't own and that I don't care about and that has no values. And I'm never getting on a plane or doing a PowerPoint again for a company that I don't own. And I said, okay, so was there like some sort of trust fund that was part of this deal when we got married that I'm not aware of? Because last time I checked, you made all the money and I'm not making anything right now. So how are we going to pay the mortgage? How are we going to pay for daycare? Oh, and by the way, this is what I looked like at the time. Lovely, I know. I probably had that expression on my face. And he said, well, I figured I would take a year and figure out what I wanted to do with my life. and you could maybe triple your business in a couple months? And that's when I said to him the most famous lines of our marriage. Listen, all this inspiration crap is for strangers. You get your butt out there and you get a job and you pay the mortgage and you do what a man does. That's right. And he said no. So I put the house on the market and we got an offer and he said, take it. And I realized he was serious. So I did what anybody who's transformed did. I started calling everybody, can you get him over here? I can't believe it. Oh, he's such a jerk. He wants to be happy. He needs to pay the bills. This is outrageous. And he kept saying no. So I spent a lot of time like this. Yep. This is actually, by the way, where I discovered the 5-second rule. Here's what's fascinating about life. You know exactly what you're supposed to be doing. You do. You just don't do it. I can prove it to you. How many of you, raise your hand if you would like to lose weight, get in shape, or otherwise be healthy? Raise your hand. Everyone. That's right. Keep your hand raised if you know what you should be doing to make that happen. That's right. Knowing what to do is never going to be your problem.
That's right.
It's whether or not you have the will to make it happen. So check this out. I knew lying in bed that I needed to get up. It's simple. But I was stopping myself in my head all the time. Simple. And what happened is I finally realized if I don't get up within 5 seconds of the moment my alarm goes off, I'm going to lay in bed like this for an hour. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Boom. The rule was born. And here's what's incredible. I started using it everywhere, and that's when my entire life changed. And then I was so embarrassed that I had a gimmick. And the way the 5-second rule works is the second you have an impulse to change, the second you have the thought, I should, you have to do it within 5 seconds. You have to, or else your brain eats the idea. So I used the rule to change everything, my marriage, my body, my job, the amount of money I was making. Incredible. Absolutely incredible. And I was so embarrassed that I had this little trick that I decided I got to figure out if there's some scientific proof. Turns out there is. This is the coolest stuff that you're going to learn today, from my speech anyway. Because the 5-second rule is super simple, super easy to use, but it's proven by neuroscience. Check this out. So here's the pleasure center of your brain. When somebody compliments you, when somebody gives you cash, when the phone rings, when it vibrates, dopamine goes off. This is where the brain absorbs it. This is the command center. This is the part of the brain, the prefrontal cortex, that you need in order to direct any kind of action. If you want to enroll people into your downline, if you want to introduce the opportunity of LifeVantage to your neighbors, you need this, the prefrontal cortex, to direct your actions. But here's the problem. The prefrontal cortex likes its habits. It likes doing what you always do. The second that you ask it to do something new, it sort of feels like this. Wait a minute, that's going to be really tough. Let's just go over here and do what we've always done. And there's a reason for that. I love this tagline by Nike, and the reason why I love it so much is it could have just said, do it. But they were smart enough to understand this. In life, there is always a moment of hesitation. If you're an Olympic athlete, and you exercise every day of your life, if you're sitting at a computer checking email and you know you need to get out and go exercise, there is a moment of hesitation. When you think about introducing this business to somebody, when you think about picking up the phone and calling somebody to talk about it, when you think about getting out of your own way, was it Doug over there in the front row? There's a moment of hesitation. Your entire life is defined by what you do in those moments of hesitation. And here's the problem, and this is what you probably never knew. Your brain is against you. It is fighting you every step of the way. Let me show you how. Anybody know the attention span of a goldfish? 9 seconds. Your attention span is less.